My name is Maya, I'm 28, and I can tell from a single sound whether a cat is just annoyed or in real pain. Monday mornings at our clinic always smell like disinfectant, coffee, and wet fur. If you don't like that, you're in the wrong place. I push open the glass door. The little brass bell's chime alerts my colleague, Chloe, in the exam room, and without looking up, she calls out, "Morning, May. The diva is already here." The diva is a striped cat lady whose official name is Princess, and unofficially, she knows every monarchy on Earth. I tie my light green smock, wash my hands, take a deep breath, and get into the rhythm. In the waiting area, a pug trembles as if the world were a cold lake. A woman holds him too tightly, and I gently place my hand on her wrist, whispering, "Let him have his shivers. It's his way of saying he needs you." She nods, and the pug breathes more freely. Next to him is a rabbit named Wally, his ears back, camouflaging himself as if he were invisible. I crouch down and whisper, "Wally, being invisible only works if you don't look at me like that." He blinks. I swear, rabbits have a sense of humor. In the exam room, Chloe wordlessly hands me the vaccine syringe. I support Princess's head, her eyes thin slits, her paw elegantly curled. Only commoners show weakness. I murmur between her ears, "Almost done, Your Majesty." Her fur is warm, her body tense. My thumb finds the spot where cats hide their surrender. Poke, out, done. "Magic hands," says the owner, looking as if he'd like to pin a medal on me. I smile, wipe the area, and write in the file. Vaccination good, next checkup in 12 months, crown is secure. We are a small team. Chloe, 2 vet techs, Zoe and me, and Ms. Rodriguez at the front desk, who with a mix of a general and a grandmother, sorts out every commotion. The morning is both heated and calm at once. X-rays, blood draws, nail trims, reassuring, explaining. I am the space that fits between fear and trust, a space with hands. At lunchtime, Chloe and I stand in the back alley with paper cups. The January air is crisp and clear, our breath a wisp of smoke. Chloe takes the first sip and says, without looking, "What's going on with your face?" I pretend not to know what she means and say, "Just a Monday." She shakes her head. "You look like you've decided on something, or are about to." I button and unbutton my smock pocket. Then I say, "I'm thinking about an app." Chloe says, "Do it. But listen to your gut, not the algorithm." And because she knows me, she adds, "You're quickly gentle. Be slow with your money." I laugh. "Where's the money coming from?" She says, "Free men with big dreams sometimes have small bank accounts." I say, "Cynical." She says, "Experienced." That afternoon, Vanessa appears in the doorway, places 2 macarons on my counter like confetti, and says, "Emergency ration." Vanessa is a police officer, my best friend for 12 years. Her eyes are bright and alert. Her voice can be as soft as silk or as hard as steel. She looks right at me. "You?" I lift a shoulder. "Maybe an app?" She nods. "Helmet on?" I grin. "Heart with a helmet, yeah. And if you fall on me," she says, tapping her uniform as if it were an airbag. I pack the macarons away so Ms. Rodriguez doesn't confiscate them and promise, "I'll call you before any chapter of foolishness." The workday is over. The stable smells of hay, of breath, of earth. Luna, my friend's mare, nudges her nose into my jacket pocket, finding the carrot as if I were see-through. I brush her forelock out of her eyes and say, "You see me, don't you?" In the indoor arena, it's just the 2 of us. The light is milky. Hooves clatter. My body remembers. Walk, trot, canter. 3 words that heal a day. Everything beneath me grows still. My mind empties. Only the rhythm remains, and the quiet creak of leather. Outside, the sky is already violet, with the first star-tiny pinholes. On the way home, I think, maybe silence is honest, but it's not home. At home, a shower. The stable air falls from me like old skin, sweatpants, tea, a book. I try, but the story won't sink in. The fridge hums too loudly. I grab my phone. An app. Names that sound like perfume, like fitness studios, like, I'm not looking for anything serious, but then I'll find it anyway. I choose one, upload 2 photos, one with a kitten in my arms, one with Luna in the background, and write in my bio, vet tech, riding, reading, cinnamon rolls. I speak to animals in their language and to people in mine. Then I stare at the done button and don't press it. I breathe. I press it. The first evening feels like someone built a new door in my apartment, and people are walking past and occasionally stopping. There's a ping, 1 profile, 2, 3, left, oh geez, right, and then a message that doesn't sound like all the others. Chris, cinnamon rolls are character tests, for or against? Me, for, but only if the cinnamon isn't stingy. Chris, cinnamon is never stingy with me. I'm Chris, freelance developer, dog person. You? Me, Maya, vet tech, horse person, book person, cinnamon person. Chris, sounds like a pack I want to run with. We exchange voice messages. His is warm with a rough edge, as if he laughed until it hurt or talked until it was late. Nola, his dog, pushed him off the bed last night, he says, and I hear his laughter coming from his belly. I tell him about Princess, who rules with a single paw, and he says I have magic hands. We talk about our favorite places. He says, Prospect Park, a cafe with cinnamon rolls that remind me of a good childhood. I say, the stable, just before a canter when the world is heading toward a yes. He asks, what does a canter feel like? I say without thinking, like a sentence that finally makes sense. There's a silence on the line. Then he says, more of that, please. I text Vanessa. He's funny. Dog, coffee, cinnamon. She says, name, photo, meeting point. I say, Central Park, Sunday daytime crowds. She says, good. Keep the helmet halfway on. No cars. No, come on up. I say, I can go alone. She says, I know. I just want you to have the option not to. The days until Sunday feel like a rubber band, stretchable, sticky, snapping back fast. In the morning, the clinic rhythm takes my hand. I calm a terrier that's trembling, as if the world is ending. Until after 3 minutes, he realizes it's not. I explain to an older lady why the pill is important for her cat, even if he hates me afterward. I say, it's okay, 3 times, and mean it every time. In between, my phone vibrates in my smock pocket. A message. Good morning, Animal Fairy. Hear the coffee sound yet? I text back between gauze pads. My coffee makes a quiet C. And you? He says, Nola's snoring a storm warning. I send a photo of Luna. He sends one of Nola, who looks like she's taken over responsibility for his bills and decided to postpone it until tomorrow. Chloe watches me when she thinks no one is looking. Your eyes are soft, she says, as we hold our paper cups warm during lunch. I say, soft is good. She says, soft is good when hard stands next to it. I say, you sound like my friend in blue. She says, maybe I should meet her. I say, you'd better not. You two would form an alliance. Sunday, Central Park. I'm early, of course. I buy a lemonade to combat my sweaty hands and sit on a bench with a view of ducks that look like they're working in shifts. I'm wearing my brave blouse, light blue. My shoulders say, I'll stand firm when the wind comes. Just as I'm thinking I've forgotten how to breathe, I see him. Chris. Dark hair, sunglasses in his hand. He's not walking hectically. It's as if he knows haste doesn't make for better sentences. He smiles, and his face changes. Maya? Chris. It's ridiculous how much that first word sets the tone. We walk. We talk about everything and nothing. He tells me about his projects, small budgets, big freedom, chaos with a view. I tell him about Chloe, who pours diagnoses into a cup of coffee, and about Princess, the Queen, who was gracious today. He asks, and Luna? I say, Luna is prose, reliable. He laughs. Prose saves hearts. Poetry breaks them. I think, you talk as if you've practiced, but not in front of a mirror. At the cafe, he orders 2 cinnamon rolls without asking. I usually don't like that, decisions being made for me, but here it feels like someone knows the right temperature for my tea. We eat too sweet and talk too honestly for a first meeting. He says, I dropped out of college, too much theory, not enough life. I say, I chose life before I knew how much theory it held. He says, and now? I say, now I sort out breaths, those of animals and my own. When we say goodbye, he hugs me longer than is in any dating etiquette guide. It's not an intrusion, just a wait, and it feels good. He says, can I call you tomorrow? Not text. Hear you. I nod, and in my head, something clicks open like a lock. He calls, Mondays, Tuesdays. In the evenings, I sit on my balcony. The book lies open next to me, unread. He tells me how Nola only responds to sit if he smiles, and it's hours later before I realize it was a joke. I tell him that Luna carried me through the day, and he asks if you can learn to canter if you've never run. I say, you can learn not to be afraid of speed if someone knows the reins. He's quiet for a moment, then says, then I'll learn that with you. Between all the lightness, a sentence hangs that I wipe away before it can land. He says it casually, as we sit by the Hudson River the third weekend, our legs dangling over the wall. The clients are paying late. It's really tight this time. I hate money stuff. He smiles as if he's apologizing for the tone. I nod, say nothing, and feel my helmet slip a millimeter lower. Later, he says it's embarrassing to talk about it so early. He has a small hole next week. He doesn't want to burden me. He just wanted to be honest. And I, who speak animal languages fluently and have learned human language, hear myself say, what do you need? And am startled by my own words. He waves it off. I'll figure it out. I don't want you to confuse me with numbers. I like you. I don't want you to think I'm... He trails off, unable to find the words. I nod. We let the stone lie in the water as if it were sinking. At home, I text Vanessa. He's great. He's honest. He's got money stress, but nothing dramatic. She texts back. Eyes open. Helmet halfway on. Nothing more. I put my phone away, read 3 pages, and the next morning, I don't remember what was on them. Monday. The clinic again smells of wet fur and coffee. I hold a paw that's shaking, and I think it's a miracle how much bodies respond to voices. I say softly, it's okay, and feel that I need to hear it myself. Chloe sees this and just raises an eyebrow. Soft is good, she says as I walk past her. But soft is not the same as compliant. I reply, I know. And somewhere inside me, I really do. But knowing isn't a handrail when you're dancing on your own free will. That evening at the stable, Luna snorts as if to say, get back in your rhythm. I saddle her slowly, as if I could tie time in a knot. Outside on the dirt path, the first trot, the loose murmur of birds that know their way home. I think, I can hold on and let go. I can hold on and let go. I can hold on, and if I let go this time, it's only when the ground is solid. A story begins within me, one I can't yet predict. It smells of cinnamon and herbal soap, sounds like Al Green on a too low volume, and feels like a hand on my hip asking, this way? I nod. And I have no idea how expensive saying yes can be when someone has learned to write bills from it. Tuesday started like any other. Ms. Rodriguez sorted invoices at the front desk. Chloe sipped from her no coffee, no diagnoses mug, and I held the paw of a nervous German shepherd who was pretending the world was a monster. Nothing special, I thought. And then my phone vibrated in my smock pocket. 2 short, 1 long, the tone I set for new contacts. I glanced at the screen as Chloe examined the dog. Chris, it said, a name that felt like a stone thrown into water. Small, but the ripples were bigger than I thought. After the exam, I ducked into the hallway and typed, Good morning, you're up early? His reply came instantly. Just wanted to see if the animal fairy was awake yet. I laughed softly, typing back, Vet tech sounds less like a Disney character. He sent a voice message. His voice, a little sleepy but warm. Okay, then how about vet fairy with a smock? Fits better. Do you have a lot of patience today? I listened to it twice before I answered. In the afternoon, as I groomed Luna and she impatiently stamped her hoof, my phone rang again. Tell me about your horse, Beau, he wrote. I sent a photo of Luna, her nostrils almost nudging the phone out of my hand. Her name is Luna. She does what she wants unless I'm paying closer attention. He wrote, "She looks smart and stubborn. Like you?" I replied, "I'm not stubborn." He wrote, "Then you're smart. Even better." I laughed so loudly that Luna laid her ears back as if to say, "Humans." Later that evening, we talked on the phone for the first time for an extended period. I sat on the balcony, a blanket around my shoulders, my teacup steaming in my hand. "So, how was your day?" he asked. "Lots of fur, not much of a break. You?" "Chaos. 3 inquiries, 2 rejections, 1 coffee maker that exploded. Classic Tuesday." "Exploded?" "Well, it sprayed me with boiling water. Felt like war." I had to laugh. "And how did you survive?" "With dignity and bandages." His voice made it easy to follow along. We talked about music, about books, about places we liked. He told me about a small cafe in Prospect Park where the cinnamon rolls were supposedly the best in the city. "I'll show you," he said. "Sunday, Central Park, and after that, cinnamon rolls. Deal?" I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. Deal. The next morning at the clinic, Chloe looked at me while I was calming a cat who felt like a vibrating engine. "What's up with you, Maya? You're smiling at the drawers." "Nothing," I said too quickly. She raised an eyebrow. "Nothing usually means something." I bit my lip. "Maybe someone." "Aha," she grinned. "Then keep your head while your heart runs." That evening, I met Vanessa at our regular cafe. She was off duty, her uniform jacket still draped over her chair, and she ordered her usual double espresso. "You look happy," she said, looking at me with that gaze that always knew more than I was saying. I told her about Chris, about our messages, about the dog who supposedly runs the house. Vanessa pushed her espresso aside. "Maya, be careful. Anyone can be anything online." "I know, but he sounds real." "Sounding is cheap." I frowned. "Vic, can't you just be happy for me for once?" She sighed, placed her hand on mine. "I am happy for you, but I'm also a cop. I see too many stories that end badly. So, helmet on." "Heart with a helmet," I murmured and smiled. "Exactly," she said. "And if he wants to see you in Central Park on Sunday, go. But first, tell me what he's wearing so I can identify him from 30 feet away." I rolled my eyes. "Vic!" She grinned. "Only half kidding." Sunday came faster than I expected. Central Park, afternoon, ducks on the water, lemonade in my hand. I was half an hour early as usual. The sun was low, and I felt my hands get sweaty. Then I saw him, Chris. Dark hair, sunglasses in his hand, a smile that was just there. He walked quickly, stopping in front of me. "Maya?" "Chris." We both laughed, so unsure, so real, and we walked side by side, as if we had done it many times before. Later, we sat on one of the benches, my hands folded, his posture relaxed, as if he were at home. "You're different from what I thought," he said. "How so?" "Well, online, you sounded a bit like someone who overthinks everything. But now you're lighter." I raised my eyebrows. "Lighter doesn't mean superficial." "No," he said. "Lighter is better. Like a canter, you said." A yes. His gaze lingered on me, and I felt my face grow hot. "Coffee?" he asked. And we went to the small cafe on the edge of the park. It smelled of cinnamon, sugar, and freshly ground coffee, a scent that immediately gets under your skin. Without asking, he ordered 2 cinnamon rolls. Normally, I would have protested because I hate it when someone makes decisions for me. But this time, I let him. "Trust me," he said, sliding the plate toward me. I took a bite. Sweet, warm, perfect. I couldn't help but smile. "See?" he said. "Sometimes you don't have to ask when you know." "Arrogant," I mumbled with a full mouth. "Confident," he corrected. We talked about everything. He told me about his job, small contracts, sometimes stressful, sometimes chaotic, but he loved the freedom. I could never go to an office every day, he said. You? I love my clinic. Sure, it's routine, but every animal is different. Every fear is different. It's never just work. Then you're someone who holds on, he said. What do you mean? Well, you hold on when others are trembling. You bring calm. You can feel that. It struck me because it was true, and because few people ever saw it that way. Later, we walked past the large sycamore trees, and he told a story about Nola, his dog, who supposedly stole a bagel from a jogger. He spoke with his hands, his eyes, with his whole being. I listened as one listens to a melody, not just a story. Eventually, we stopped by the water. He tossed a pebble in. So Maya, what's the deal with Luna? With whom? Your horse. I laughed. Like a mirror. If I'm unsure, she gets stubborn. If I'm clear, she goes with me. She doesn't lie. Sounds like you have a good teacher. I nodded. Sometimes I wish people were like that. Me too, he said softly. As the sun sank lower, we sat on the wall by the water. Our legs dangled. We were silent for a moment, and it wasn't an awkward silence. I heard the birds, the children, the distant hum of the city, and next to it, his breath. Can I call you tomorrow? He asked suddenly. Call? Not text? I want to hear you laugh. Texting isn't enough. I looked at him, and he looked at me. And in that gaze, there was so much courage and uncertainty at once that I could only nod. Okay. He grinned, stood up, and held out his hand to me. Then see you tomorrow, Animal Fairy. I lightly hit his arm. Don't ever say that again. Yes, he said, because it fits. On the way home, I felt a smile written on my face that wouldn't go away. At home, I took off my shoes, sat on the sofa, stared into space, and texted Vanessa. He was real, and he ordered cinnamon rolls without asking. I didn't hold it against him. Her reply came quickly. Sounds dangerous. Helmet on. I didn't write back, putting my phone away, but deep inside, I knew. I had already taken the helmet off. Thursday evening was one of those days where the clinic ran late. 2 emergencies just before closing time, a cat with a breathing problem, a dog that had swallowed a sock. By the time I finally took off my smock, it was already dark. I was tired, smelled of animals and disinfectant, yet my phone vibrated in my pocket like a heart that didn't want to sleep. Can you come over? I'm cooking. I only know how to make 3 things, but one of them I do really well. Chris. I stared at the message. My stomach was a whirlwind of fatigue, curiosity, and something that tasted like a secret yes. What is it? I typed back. Spaghetti aglio e olio. Simple, honest, a little spicy, like me. I laughed silently in the empty clinic hallway where only the hum of the refrigerators remained. And you're sure I'll survive? Only if you bring wine. His apartment was in Prospect Heights, on the 3rd floor, with no elevator. I was slightly breathless when I arrived at the top, the wine bottle tucked under my arm. He opened the door barefoot, in a gray t-shirt, and grinned. Hello, Animal Fairy. Don't say that anymore. I will. He stepped aside, letting me in. It's your nickname now. His apartment smelled of garlic and lemon. The light was warm, and it wasn't a designer apartment, but one that had been assembled over time, stacks of books, an old guitar on the wall, and Nola on the sofa, who lifted her head and immediately came to me. I scratched her behind the ears. She closed her eyes as if she had been expecting me all along. She likes you, he said from the kitchen. She usually tests people for a longer time. I'm a pro at bribing animals. Then I'm doomed. He chopped garlic, oil bubbled softly in the pan, and music played from a small speaker. It was Al Green's Let's Stay Together. Cheesy, I know, he said. It still fits, I replied. We drank wine. He told me about his projects, about chaotic invoices, about a client who hadn't paid for weeks. He made jokes about it, but for a moment, his eyes held something serious that I chose to ignore. I told him about the clinic, about Princess, who had acted majestically again today, as if a vaccination were beneath her dignity. He listened attentively, asked questions, and laughed at the right moments. When the pasta was ready, he filled plates and sat across from me. "You have to be honest," he said. "I can handle criticism." I tasted it. Oil, garlic, chili. Simple, but good. I nodded. "You're right. You can do this." "See? At least I have one talent." "Maybe two," he grinned. "And what's the second one?" I felt the blood rush to my face and quickly looked down at my plate. Later, we sat on his sofa, Nola curled up at my feet, and the music was still playing. We talked about childhood, about small things. He said that he used to play soccer, but always preferred learning guitar, because when you play, you don't have to pretend to be someone else. I told him about the books on my shelf that I hadn't read yet because I was afraid they might disappoint me. "Then leave them be," he said. "Books that are waiting are promises." I nodded. That's how I see it too. At some point, he gently placed his hand on mine. It wasn't a big gesture, no pulling, just a weight, warm and natural. We didn't look at each other. We just kept talking as if nothing had changed, even though everything had. When I got up to leave, it was late, much later than I had thought. I put on my jacket. He opened the door. "Can I call you again tomorrow?" he asked. "You're going to anyway." "True," he grinned. Then he leaned forward and didn't kiss me. Just a brief whisper on my cheek, warm and close. "Thanks for coming over." On the stairs, I heard Nola bark once, a deep bark, as if she were saying goodnight to me. At home, I could still smell garlic on my fingers. I got into bed, and Al Green's song was stuck in my head. "Let's stay together." I closed my eyes, and for the first time in months, I fell asleep without the silence being too loud. It was a Saturday, cool and bright, and the city looked freshly washed. We met by the Hudson, walked along the promenade, talking about movies, favorite restaurants, and everything that was still easy. His hand found mine casually, not demanding, just there. I let him, and in my stomach, that warmth spread that questions nothing. We sat on a low wall, our legs dangling over the water. Nola lay at his feet. The sun glistened on the river, and for a moment I thought, this is what a beginning feels like. Then came the sentence, very casually, as if he were talking about the weather. "Sometimes this gets to me, you know? The endless invoices that don't get paid. I work, I do everything, and then I sit there waiting for the money, and it doesn't come. My bank account looks like someone cut a hole in it." He laughed, a short, apologetic laugh, but his eyes weren't laughing. I frowned. "That sounds stressful." "It is, but hey, that's life as a freelancer. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. Lately, it's been more down." He stroked Nola's head. "Don't worry, I'll be fine." I wanted to press on, to ask how bad it really was, but he just changed the subject. "Rather, tell me what a canter feels like in the rain." And I told him. I talked about Luna, about the feeling when the rain beats against your face, but you keep riding because the rhythm is stronger than the weather. He listened, nodded, and smiled, and I let it go. That evening, I sent a short message to Vanessa. "He has money troubles, but he jokes about it. I think he's just being honest." She replied immediately, "Maya, people who say it lightly want you to take it lightly. Be careful." I typed for a long time, then deleted it. Finally, I just wrote, "I have the helmet on." But it wasn't true. I had taken it off long ago. A week later, I was back at his place in his kitchen, with Al Green playing softly in the background again. We ate pasta, this time with pesto, and talked about plans, about vacations we had never taken. At some point he sighed, rubbing his neck. "Maya, I don't want you to think I'm using you, but I have a really bad problem next week. The rent. Normally it wouldn't be a big deal, but the client hasn't paid for 3 weeks. I'm embarrassed to say this." I looked at him sitting there, his shoulders heavy, his eyes honest. At least, that's how they seemed. My heart pounded, my mind screamed. Chloe had said, "Be slow with your money." Vanessa would have yelled in my ear, "Don't!" But I only heard my own yes. "How much?" I asked quietly. He shook his head. "No, Maya, please. I don't want you to feel like you have to." "Chris." I placed my hand on his. "I'm asking because I want to." He looked at me for a long time, with a look that went straight through my skin. "Just until Monday, I promise." I nodded. Monday. A word as innocent as a promise, as dangerous as a blade when you don't realize it's cutting you. At home, in my bed, I tossed and turned. I told myself it was normal to help a partner, that there was nothing wrong with it, that love also meant being there in a time of need. And yet, there was a small, silent knot in my stomach. I pushed it away. He'd pay it back on Monday. Monday came, and with it, the unease that had settled in my stomach the night before. I was at the clinic, holding a nervous spaniel's lips during a dental check, while my phone vibrated in my smock pocket. A quick glance during a break, a message from Chris. "Thanks again, Maya. You're really saving me right now. I'll transfer it to you tonight, I promise." I took a deep breath, wrote back, "It's okay. Don't stress." But inside, I thought, "Please keep your word." After work, I drove straight to his place. I wanted to see the mood, not just words on a screen. His apartment again smelled of garlic and lemon. Al Green was playing softly in the background, and Nola came up to me, wagging her tail. Chris was in the kitchen, looking relieved, as if the burden was gone. "You're here." He hugged me, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. "You don't know what this means to me. I was on the brink, honestly, and you're the reason I didn't completely fall apart today." I smiled weakly. "Chris, don't exaggerate." "No, really." He looked me in the eyes, his voice growing deeper. "I'll give it back to you. Tonight. Tomorrow at the latest. You're the last person I want to disappoint." I nodded, wanting to believe, and I did. The next day, during my lunch break, I sat with Vanessa at the cafe. She rested her chin on her hand, studying me. "You look different." "Different?" "Like clouded, as if you're hiding something." I bit into my croissant. "He had some money problems, just for a bit. I helped him out. Nothing big." Her eyes narrowed. "Maya." "Vic, stop. It was a small amount, and he's paying it back. You've known him for 3 weeks. So? And you haven't even seen him for who he is when he's not getting something from you." I fell silent, staring at my plate. "Maya, please. I'm not saying this to hurt you. But it's the oldest trick in the book. First charm, then feign honesty, then money." "He's different," I countered, my voice softer than I intended. She placed her hand on mine. "You want him to be different. That's not the same thing." I shook my head, drank my coffee, and the hot burning in my throat wasn't just from the drink. That evening, a message came. "The bank was acting up today. The transfer will go out tomorrow. I promise." I stared at the screen for a long time. Tomorrow, again. I typed, "Okay, no stress." But this time, I believed it less. 2 days later, still no repayment. No sign, just words. I brought it up during a phone call. "Hey, Chris, what about the money?" "Oh, Maya, you sound like my bank teller." He laughed. "It's coming, really. Tomorrow, I promise." I forced myself to smile, though he couldn't see it. "Okay? You do believe me, right?" "Of course." But my stomach was silently shaking its head. Vanessa texted me that night. "Helmet on. Tighter." I put my phone away. I didn't want to hear that she was right. Not yet. The stable was my sanctuary. It always had been. Even as a child, I found a way to order the world there that was sometimes missing at home. Horses don't forgive lies. They mirror what's going on inside you. If you're insecure, they become stubborn. If you're afraid, they get nervous. And if you're honest, they run with you as if you have wings. On this Wednesday evening, it was cool, the sky already in twilight, when I went to Luna. She extended her head to me, snorting softly, and immediately nudged my jacket pocket. I giggled. "Yes, I have something for you." I pulled out a carrot. She took it gently with her lips, as if to prove she was more refined than any princess. I groomed her slowly, brushing over her coat, which glittered gold in the stable lights. My hands moved automatically, but my mind was elsewhere. On Chris, on his laugh, his way of making everything sound easy, on the money he still owed me. I heard my own voice, how I had said last week, "Of course I believe you." And I heard Vanessa's warning me in my ear, "You want him to be different. That's not the same thing." I put the brush aside, leaning my forehead against Luna's neck for a moment. She was warm and smelled of hay and summer. She snorted again, as if answering me. "Do you know what the problem is, Luna?" I whispered. My mind paints me pictures, and my gut tells me they're not true, but I'd rather listen to the pictures, because they're prettier. Luna stamped her hoof. I had to laugh, a short, brittle laugh. Yeah, you're right. I know it. In the saddle, it didn't get any better. I rode at a walk, then a trot, letting her move beneath me. Normally, everything would sort itself out during these minutes. Not today. Today, the knot was still there. I felt that I was sitting tensely, my hands gripping the reins too tightly. Luna reacted instantly, laying her ears back, tossing her head up. I took a deep breath, loosened up, and she calmed down, but the message was clear. I can't follow you the way you are. And suddenly I thought, that's exactly it. I'm holding on to Chris because I don't want to let go, but I'm holding on too tightly. And he notices. He's using it. I stopped, leaned forward, and stroked Luna's neck. "Thanks. You're more honest than he is." At home, later in bed, I could barely fall asleep. I tossed and turned, hearing his laugh in my head, his words, "I'll pay you back. Tomorrow. I promise." And next to them, Vanessa's voice, clear, cool. It's the oldest trick in the book. My gut had already decided. Only my heart still refused to admit it. Vanessa was already waiting at the cafe when I arrived. She sat as she always did, with a clear view of the door, a reflex from her job she never dropped. An espresso, strong and black, sat in front of her, and she stirred it mechanically, even though there was no sugar in it. "Maya." She smiled, stood up, and hugged me, short and firm. "You look tired." I sat down, taking off my jacket. "Long days at the clinic and the stable. You know how it is." She raised an eyebrow. "Or Chris." I rolled my eyes. "Vic, please." "Come on." She leaned back. "Tell me, what's going on with him?" I hesitated, staring into my cup of cappuccino, swirling the spoon through the foam. "He had some problems. Money, that's all. Nothing dramatic. A client hadn't paid, rent was due, and I helped him out, just temporarily." Vanessa said nothing, just looked at me. It was the kind of look that says more than words ever could. "What?" I asked, a little sharper than I wanted to. "Maya," she began slowly, "you've known him for what? 3 weeks? 4. And after 4 weeks, he's borrowing money from you? He didn't demand it. He told me, honestly, openly, I wanted to help. And? Did he pay it back?" I pressed my lips together. "Not yet, but he will. He promised." Vanessa tilted her head, sipping her espresso. "Promised? Men who can say that usually have a lot of practice." "Vic!" I put my cup down on the table, a little too hard. The spoon clattered. "Not every man is a con artist. Not everyone has bad intentions. You're a cop. You see the worst everywhere. But me, I don't want to see that all the time." "I know," she said softly, "and that's exactly why I'm telling you, so you don't go blind." I stared at the table, my hands clenched together. "He's different. I can feel it." Vanessa was silent for a moment, then she placed her hand on mine. "Maya, I'm not against him. I'm for you. There's a difference. I looked at her, wanting to say something, but the words got stuck in my throat. Instead, I nodded. Half-heartedly, half-defiantly. On the way home, her words echoed in my head. He's different. I can feel it. But her voice also echoed. Promised? Men who can say that usually have a lot of practice. And between those two voices was my gut, which had known for a long time what my heart didn't want to hear. Monday. I had spent the entire morning with a nervous dachshund who couldn't decide whether to eat me or love me. When I finally looked at my phone during my lunch break, Chris's name was blinking. The bank is acting up. The transfer is stuck. It'll be there tomorrow, I promise. Promise. That word again. I stared at the message as the coffee in my hand grew cold. That evening he called. His voice was warm, almost too warm as always. Maya, I swear it's not a big deal. I talked to the bank again today. It'll be done tomorrow. Tomorrow, I repeated, trying not to sound too sharp. Hey, don't you trust me? He laughed, but his laugh was thin. Of course, I said. Of course I do. But as soon as I hung up, I felt my stomach clench. Tuesday. Nothing. No transfer. I texted. And? He replied, Ugh, nothing again today. They're useless. I'll bring it to you in cash as soon as I get it, okay? I stared at the words until they blurred. Vanessa called. So? Did he pay you back? Not yet, but it's the bank. It's not his fault. Silence on the other end of the line. Then a long breath. Maya, wake up. Vic, stop! Always jumping to the worst-case scenario. Sometimes things just take time. Sometimes yes, but sometimes they don't. Your gut has known for a long time. I don't want to hear it. And that's the problem. I hung up before she could say anything more. 2 days later, I was in his apartment again. Nola jumped up to me excitedly. Chris grinned, kissed me as a greeting. Hey, sorry this has been dragging on. Seriously, I hate it too. But next week, I'm getting a big payment. I'll give you everything back right away. Next week? Yeah, for sure. And then we'll do something nice with it. Just the two of us. He smiled, that smile that made me weak. I nodded, even though my gut was screaming. At home, I sat in the dark, the lights off, just photos of Luna on my phone, looking at me as if to say, you know the truth. But I clung to his smile, to his voice, to what I so desperately wanted to believe. It was a Friday evening, and rain was pelting against my windows when my phone vibrated. Chris. I answered immediately. I could already tell from his voice that he was about to say something that wasn't going to be easy. Maya, I have a problem. My stomach immediately tightened. Again? Not like you think. He spoke quickly, almost breathlessly. My MacBook is broken, completely. The screen is black. I can't work without it. And if I don't work, I won't have any income at all. I know it sounds like an excuse, but it's my tool. My job depends on it. I stayed silent. I only heard the rain, which was more consistent than my heart. I'll pay you back as soon as the big transfer from that client comes in, for sure. But without a laptop, I can't deliver anything. Then he'll never pay. It's like a chain reaction, you understand? How much? I asked quietly. 1,000, maybe 1,200. I know it's a lot, but otherwise, everything will go down the drain. 1,000. 1,200. My head screamed, my gut convulsed. But my heart saw his face, how he looked at me when he said, You're the last person I want to disappoint. I don't know, Chris. Maya. His voice turned soft, pleading. You're the only good thing in my life right now. I don't want to lose you just because my life is a mess, please. I pressed my lips together. Everything in me wanted to say no, but the no got stuck in my throat. I'll help you. But this is the last time. The last time, I swear. I transferred the money that very night. Afterward, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. My thoughts raced. It's just a loan. He needs me. I love him. And next to those, a softer, persistent thought. You're being used. The next day, Vanessa called. So, any news? I faltered, wanting to lie, but she heard it immediately. Maya, he needed money for his laptop. How much? It's not important. Maya. Her voice was stern, almost a command. 1,200. Silence on the other end of the line, then a long breath. He's wearing you down. You have to stop. He needs me, I whispered. No, he needs your money, and you need to finally open your eyes. I swallowed. Vic, please, don't tell me he's a con artist. I'm just telling you that you need to protect yourself. I don't want you to end up with nothing, without him and without your money. I hung up because her truth was too sharp, and because I wasn't ready to swallow it yet. It was a sunny Saturday, almost too warm for spring. Chris had told me he was spending the weekend with his brother. Family gathering, a little chaotic, but important, he said. I nodded on the phone, wished him a good time, and thought, okay, now I have some time for myself. I spent the morning at the stable, grooming Luna more thoroughly than usual, letting her trot in the paddock. Her coat glistened, and she tossed her head as if to say, see, this is what freedom feels like. I laughed, feeling light, almost liberated. But in the afternoon, on my way home, I suddenly heard a bark. A familiar bark. I stopped. It came from the side street that led to Chris's apartment. My heart sank into my stomach. Nola? I mumbled. I walked on slowly, as if I could be invisible. And there she was, Nola, on a leash with a neighbor I had seen in the stairwell once before. Hi, Maya, she said kindly. Chris had something to do, so I'm watching her for a bit. My mouth was dry. Oh, with his brother? She blinked, seeming to think. No, he said he had to work. Something about deadlines. It was as if a glass had shattered in my head. I nodded, forcing a smile. Thanks. Have a nice weekend. You too, she said, pulling Nola along, and the bark echoed in my ears. At home, I sat on my sofa for a long time, staring at the wall. My heart wanted to make excuses. Maybe he had been with his brother, just had to work briefly beforehand. Maybe he hadn't lied, but just postponed it. But my gut silently shook its head. That evening, he texted me. Everything's good here. Lots of family. Loud, but nice. I looked at the message, feeling my stomach clench. A lie. I still replied. Glad to hear it. Say hi to everyone. Nothing more. The next day, over coffee with Vanessa, it all spilled out. He was supposedly with his brother, but Nola was with a neighbor. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. I see. Maybe he just had to work beforehand and didn't want to explain. Maya. Her voice was clear and cool. He's lying, period. You don't know that. Yes, I do. I can see it in you. You know it too. I shook my head, staring into my cup. I can't believe it. Not yet. Then wait, but keep your eyes open. At home that night, I lay awake. Chris's voice echoed in my head. I don't want to disappoint you. And next to it, Nola's bark, so real, so close, while he was talking about family. Two worlds that didn't fit together. And I was in the middle of it, trapped between what I wanted and the truth. Monday started innocently. Chris sent me a selfie from a living room I didn't recognize. Family time, haha. My brother makes the best scrambled eggs. He was grinning in the picture, holding a beer. I pressed the phone closer to my eyes, staring at the photo as if I could find the flaw in it. 2 hours later, while I was cleaning Luna's hooves at the stable, his Instagram story popped up. A desk, a screen full of code, a coffee cup next to it. Deadline weekend, kill me plaz, the caption read. I stared at the words, then at the picture. That was not a living room. No brother. It was work. And then on the same day, a message to me. Sorry I've been so quiet. My brother's kids are as loud as a stadium. 3 versions. 3 stories. Something clicked in my mind like a lock snapping shut. That evening, I sat in Chloe's kitchen after we had both locked up the clinic. She poured us tea, placed the cups on the table, and looked at me. "You're somewhere else." I hesitated, then took out my phone and showed her the screenshots. "Do you see how contradictory this is?" Chloe looked at everything, scrolling back and forth, then placed the phone back on the table. "Maya, you're a woman with a great gut feeling. You calm dogs, cats, rabbits, because you feel their fear even before they growl or hiss. Why don't you listen to that same instinct when it comes to yourself?" I was silent. My fingers gripped the teacup as if I could hold on to it. "Your gut has already answered," Chloe said softly. "Only your heart refuses to accept the translation." I swallowed. My eyes burned. What if I'm wrong? What if he's just chaotic? Then you only lose an illusion. But if you're right, then you save yourself. Later, alone on my sofa, I looked at the 3 screenshots again and again. Selfie, story, message. 3 worlds that contradicted each other. And somewhere in between, I stood like a knot in a rope that couldn't be untangled. For the first time, I didn't text him back. I put my phone aside, picked up a book, and didn't read a single line. Vanessa sat across from me at our usual table at the cafe, her uniform jacket still half draped over the chair. She took a sip of espresso, put the cup down with a hard clatter, and fixed me with her gaze. "Maya, let's not mince words. He's conning you." I flinched. "Vic?" "No, listen. 3 different stories in one weekend. One time a brother, one time work, one time kids. And you're sitting there making excuses for him." "Maybe." I heard myself speaking as if someone else were forming the words. "Maybe he just didn't want to burden me. Maybe he was embarrassed he didn't know how to explain." Vanessa snorted. "Or he's just a liar." I stared into my cappuccino, where the milk foam had already broken apart. "You don't even know what's really going on." "Yes," she said. "I can see it in you. You're not the Maya who laughs at the stable when Luna acts up. You're the Maya who can't sleep at night because she's afraid her heart was wrong. And you know what? He's the one who's doing it." I pressed my lips together, feeling my hands dig into the fabric of my pants. "I love him." "No." Vanessa's voice was firm, but her eyes were soft. "You love the idea of him, the dream that someone will see you, hear you, hold you. But him? He only sees your money." I lifted my head, tears in my eyes. "Why can't you just believe that he's different?" Vanessa took a deep breath, then placed her hand over mine. "Because I know you, and I know how tightly you hold on when you're afraid to let go. I don't want to lose you, Maya, and certainly not to someone who's just using you." I couldn't say anything, just nod slightly, even though every muscle in me screamed no. When I got home, my phone rang. "Chris." I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity. Then I answered. "Hey, animal fairy," he said softly. "Everything okay?" I heard Vanessa's voice in my head. "He only sees your money." And at the same time, I heard my heart. "But maybe not." "Everything's okay," I whispered, and I knew it was a lie. It was a Tuesday evening, long after the clinic had closed. I was sitting on my sofa, tea in hand, when Vanessa suddenly stood at my door. No warning, no call. Her gaze was serious, her shoulders tense, a look I only knew when things were truly important. "Can I come in?" she asked, even though she knew the answer. "Of course," I said, putting my cup down. "What's wrong?" She didn't sit down, remaining standing, her hands buried in her jacket pockets. "Maya, I did something I'm not supposed to do." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" I checked up on him. "Chris." I felt hot and cold at the same time. "Vic, you can't just do that." "I can. And I did. Because I want to protect you." I shook my head, wanting to protest, but she slowly pulled some printouts from her jacket pocket. Police reports, case numbers, names. "He's been reported, multiple times, for fraud. It's always the same pattern. He meets women, cons them out of money, never pays it back, always new excuses. I stared at the papers, the letters blurred. That can't be. It can. It is. Maybe it's a different Chris. Someone with the same name. My voice trembled. No, Maya. Date of birth, address, everything matches. I shook my head, tears burning in my eyes. But he's not like that. He listens to me. He understands me. He cooks for me. He has Nola. He's a con artist. Vanessa's voice was firm, but I could hear that it hurt her to say it. I sank onto the sofa, holding the papers in my hands, which suddenly felt much heavier than paper. No, I whispered. No, I don't believe that. Not Chris. Vanessa sat down next to me, putting her arm around me. Maya, I know how much this hurts, but you have to look at it. Otherwise, you'll go under. I shook my head, burying my face in my hands. I can't. I don't want to. And so, I sat there, with the files in my hands, still clinging to the dream I didn't want to let go of. The stable was quiet that evening. Only the soft shuffling of hooves, the crackling of hay, a pigeon in the rafters somewhere. I went to Luna. She immediately lifted her head, snorting softly, as if she knew I needed more than usual. I brushed her coat, slow strokes, repeating the same motion as if I could use it to organize my thoughts. But there was only chaos in my head. Chris's voice, his promises, his laugh, and next to them, the files that Vanessa had given me, black and white, reports, dates, names, things that couldn't be denied. I spoke softly as I combed through Luna's mane. He's not like that. He can't be like that. Maybe that was in the past. Maybe he's different now. Maybe... Luna laid her ears back, not out of anger but as a sign. Horses react that way when they feel something is wrong. I gave a brittle laugh. You don't believe me either, huh? She snorted again, stamping her hoof impatiently as if to say, Stop lying to yourself. I leaned my forehead against her neck. But what if I was so wrong? What if I was just blind because I wanted to be in love so badly? Something in me tightened. I wanted to text Chris to see him, to hear him say it was all a misunderstanding. At the same time, I knew I already had the answer. Later, back in my apartment, I picked up my phone. His name lit up, a new message. Hey, sorry I haven't been in touch much today. Lots of stress, thinking of you. I stared at the text. Short, superficial. Nothing that I needed. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to write, Are you being honest with me? Or, Who are you really? But I only typed, It's okay. Get some rest. After that, I threw my phone onto the sofa and buried my face in my hands. I knew Luna was right. My gut knew it. Even my mind knew it by now. Only my heart was clinging on like a child who doesn't understand why the world can be so cruel. It was a Thursday, late. I was still at the clinic, sorting medications into drawers, when my phone vibrated. Chris. I answered immediately, even though I already knew something was wrong. His voice was breathless, urgent. Maya, I know I'm not supposed to say this again, but I have a problem. Just this one last time, then I'm through with it. My stomach immediately tightened. What is it now? It's just one invoice that has to be paid urgently, otherwise they'll freeze my account, and then everything falls apart. Please, I'll pay you back immediately when the client pays. It's just a matter of days. I was silent. My hands trembled slightly. I stared at the small bottles in the drawer that were so neatly arranged while my life was anything but. Maya, please say something. Chris. My voice was brittle. I can't do this anymore. I'm not helping you again. Silence on the other end. For seconds. Then something in his voice changed as he finally spoke. I knew it. What do you mean? You don't trust me. You're like the others. All love and understanding at the beginning. And then, when it gets serious, everything turns around. I should have known you'd be like that, too. My breath caught in my throat. The others? Yeah, he continued, his voice now cold, almost contemptuous. You think you're special, but you're just one of many. Always the same story. You want to be heroes, but when it really counts, you abandon a person. Chris, my voice broke. I've given you so much, more than I could, and you're accusing me of abandoning you? He laughed bitterly. Maya, you're not special. You were just convenient. Those words hit me harder than any lie before. They were like a punch to the gut that took my breath away. I couldn't say anything more. You know what? Forget it, he said finally, cold and short. I'll handle this without you. Then he hung up. I sat there for minutes, phone in hand, unable to move. Inside me, there was nothing left of that warm smile he had given me in Central Park. No trace of the man who had cooked me pasta and held my hand. Only coldness, only the truth. Tears streamed down my face, quiet and silent, and somewhere in that silence I knew Vanessa had been right, from the very beginning. Vanessa came over that same evening. I hadn't called or texted, but she simply showed up at my door, just as she always did when she felt I couldn't handle it anymore. In her hand she held a folder that she held tight against her chest like a secret. Maya, she said softly, that's enough. You have to see everything. I let her in, speechless, and we sat down at my kitchen table. My gaze fell on the folder, and I felt sick to my stomach, even before she opened it. I shouldn't have shown you this, she began, but I couldn't stand by and watch anymore, and after what you just told me on the phone, I shook my head. He was so different, in the beginning. My voice was barely a whisper. Vanessa took a deep breath, opened the folder. Papers, printouts, case notes, black and white. Names of women, fraud reports, sums of money, bank statements, always the same pattern. Charming, intimate, trustworthy, then money. A lot of money. Here, she said, pointing to an entry. 2 years ago, same con. Online acquaintance, promises, repayments that never came. $4,300. I stared at the line, barely able to breathe. Here again, last year, $2,000. And the woman even reported him to court. The case is still open. My stomach clenched. I felt my whole body resist the words. And this, Vanessa continued, her voice firmer, is from this spring. 3 reports filed simultaneously. 3 women, 3 stories that all sound like yours. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. No, Vic, that can't be true. He was so charming, so attentive, so real. Her voice softened as she placed her hand on mine. That's exactly why his con works, because he knows what women need, and he gives it to them, just long enough to get what he wants. I looked at her, my lips trembling. And me? I was just one of many? No, Vanessa said, and her gaze was warm, even though her words were hard. You were the next one. That's the difference. But you have to decide if you're going to be the last. I burst into tears, burying my face in my hands. She pulled me close. It's not your fault, Maya. You wanted to believe, and that's not a crime. But now you have to fight. I nodded, sobbing, barely able to speak. But somewhere deep inside me, beneath the pain, shame, and disappointment, a spark ignited, a spark of anger. The night after Vanessa's visit was long. I tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. In every sound, I heard my own heart beating. Chris's words came back to me again and again like tiny needles. You're not special, just convenient. I pressed the pillow against my face as if I could smother the memories. But they remained. At about 3 a.m, I got up. I sat at the kitchen table and pulled out a notebook, the one where I usually wrote down recipes and shopping lists, and opened it. My hands trembled, but I wrote, amount, $800. Rent, supposedly bank problems, amount, $1,200. MacBook broken. Amount, $300. Electricity bill. Smaller sums, $50, $100, $200. Taxi, groceries, dog supplies. Below that, I wrote the dates, the days he had promised to transfer the money tomorrow. I noted the messages, the excuses. Banks acting up. Client will pay soon. I don't want to burden you, but when I was done, I stared at the list. It was black and white, cold, sober. No charm, no smile, no animal fairy. Just numbers, excuses, lies. Tears streamed down my face, but I also felt something new, something hard. Anger. Not just at him, but at myself, for having been so blind, for having believed everything, even though my gut had known what was going on all along. The next day, I told Vanessa about it. We sat in her kitchen. The smell of freshly brewed coffee hung in the air. She skimmed the pages, nodding slowly. Good, Maya. This is evidence. If we supplement this properly, screenshots, transfers, chats, then we have a foundation. A foundation for what? I asked quietly. For a report. For justice. For revenge, if you want to call it that. I bit my lip. Revenge sounds so dirty. Sometimes it's just about getting back what was taken from you. I looked at her for a long time, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was no longer just a victim. I was someone who could start fighting back. That night, I wrote again, but this time, not to Chris. I wrote to myself, a sentence I put at the very top of the page. I was one of many, but I will be the last. The next morning, I looked in the mirror with tired eyes and knew something had changed. No longer was I endlessly circling the question, why did he do it? But a new thought, clear and sharp. I'll get it back. At the clinic, Chloe noticed it immediately. You look different, she said, while we were vaccinating a Jack Russell who was yelping like a jackhammer. Like you've decided to shoot someone. Almost, I murmured. She raised an eyebrow but didn't ask anything else, and I was grateful. That evening, I was back in Vanessa's kitchen. She had hung her uniform jacket over the chair, her laptop was open, and her hair was tied back tightly. Her eyes sparkled. Okay, she began. We'll do this right. You document everything, Maya. Every message, every promise, every transfer. I nodded. I've already started, the list. Good. She took my notebook and flipped through it. But we need proof, screenshots, bank statements, and when he talks, record it. Record it? Yeah. If he asks for money again, let him repeat the amounts, preferably in a voice message. That's worth its weight in gold. I swallowed. And what if he gets suspicious? Vanessa gave a crooked grin. Then do what he did to you. Be charming, innocent. Say you need the security for yourself that he'll pay you back. He'll believe he's winning. And that's exactly where you'll get him. I bit my lip. Vic, I'm scared. That's normal. She put her hand on mine. But this time, you're not alone. You have me, and you have the truth. Those two are stronger than any of his lies. The next few days, I was like a double agent, a vet tech by day, a spy by night. I scrolled through our chats, took screenshots, and saved voice messages. I printed out bank statements and highlighted the transfers. And I continued to write in my notebook, not just numbers, but also feelings. How I felt every time he said tomorrow. How my chest had tightened when nothing came again. I wanted the police to see not just the facts, but also the wounds he had left behind. Then came the moment Vanessa had been hoping for. Chris called late in the evening. His voice sounded tired and rushed. Maya, I know you don't want to hear this again, but please, just one more time. It's about an invoice that's about to go to collections. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Okay, but Chris, can you please tell me exactly how much it is? I need to write it down to keep track. Sure, he said immediately. It's $1,500. I'll pay you back next week when the money from my client finally comes in. I swear." His voice vibrated in my ear, and my phone recorded every syllable. After the call, I wrote only one sentence in my notebook. "He thinks he has me, but this time I have him." Vanessa was right. It felt like police work. Except this time I was the investigator and the victim at the same time. I sat at my kitchen table, stacks of printouts, and my laptop in front of me. Every transfer I had made to him was highlighted and placed next to it. I sorted them chronologically and attached small, colorful sticky notes. Rent, $800, March 14th. MacBook, $1,200, March 28th. Electricity, $300, April 4th. Next to them was a folder full of screenshots, messages where he promised me, "Transferring tomorrow, my word," or "You're the only one I have." I marked the dates and placed them next to the bank statements. Vanessa came over later in civilian clothes, a soda in her hand, her gaze focused. "Not bad," she said, rearranging the printouts, making them stricter and more orderly. "This is already half a case." "It feels like I'm dissecting my own life," I mumbled. "You are. But trust me, it's necessary. Otherwise, no one will believe you." The hardest part was the voice message. I played it for Vanessa. Chris's voice, familiar yet suddenly so foreign that it made me cold. "It's $1,500. I'll pay you back next week when the money from my client comes in. I swear." Vanessa nodded slowly. "That's almost enough on its own, but the more we have, the better." She took my phone and showed me how to back up the data securely. "Copy everything to a flash drive, no cloud, no chance of him deleting it if he somehow gets to your phone." "Do you think he would do that?" "Maya." Her voice was hard. "He's taken thousands of dollars from you without batting an eye. Do you really think your phone would be off limits to him?" A chill ran down my spine. The next few days, I lived in two worlds. By day, I treated animals, comforted owners, and laughed with Chloe as if everything were normal. But in the evenings, my apartment turned into an evidence archive. I printed, sorted, and highlighted. My notebook was now full, page after page filled with numbers, dates, and quotes. Sometimes my hands trembled when I read the chats again. How I had believed him every single time. How I had let myself be reeled in. But at the same time, I felt that every page was making me stronger. Every line was a step out of helplessness. On a Sunday evening, Vanessa and I were back in her kitchen. She spread the documents out on the table and looked at me seriously. "Maya, this is strong. You have everything. Transfers, messages, voice recordings. When we take this to the police, he won't be able to get out of it." I nodded, but my voice trembled. "What if he threatens me then? What if he finds out it was me?" Vanessa placed her hand on mine. "Then I'll be there. And the law will be there too. You're not alone anymore." I looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I felt, maybe, just maybe, I can be free again. The plan was simple, at least on paper. I was to meet him one more time, to make him feel like I was wavering, that I might still be willing to help him. And all the while, I was to record everything, every request, every amount, every promise. Vanessa had drilled me like a trainee before a big exam. Stay calm, let him do the talking. Give him little reassurances so he keeps talking. No accusations, no suspicion. He has to think he's got you again. I nodded, but my heart was already pounding at the thought of it. We arranged to meet at a cafe, an inconspicuous one in the middle of the city. Saturday, 3 in the afternoon, people everywhere. That was good. I arrived early, of course, and found a seat by the window. My phone was on the table in front of me, with the recording function on. My hands were clammy, and I wiped them on my pants. Then he came. Chris. Jeans, a leather jacket. That smile that had made me weak in the knees in the beginning. Only now I knew what lay beneath it. "Maya," he said, sitting down across from me as if nothing had happened. "Good to see you." "You too," I replied, my voice almost normal. We ordered coffee, small talk, short and banal. Then he got serious, placing his hands on the table. Maya, I know the last time didn't go well, but you have to understand, I'm under a lot of pressure right now. If I can't pay this one invoice, that's it. I'll have nothing. I nodded slowly. How much? He exhaled, as if he had only been waiting for that question. This time, $2,000. But you wouldn't be in this alone. I'll pay you back as soon as the big payment from my client comes in. Honestly, I swear. I looked at him, holding his gaze. 2,000, I repeated softly. Yes. His voice was soft and pleading. Maya, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. I don't want to lose you. Please trust me one more time. My phone recorded every word. I nodded slowly, as if giving in. Maybe I could do something, but I have to be sure you'll pay it back. Of course. He leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. I'll even give it to you in writing if you want. I'll pay you back everything, every single penny. I don't want to disappoint you. Good, I said softly. Say it again, Chris, so I can remember. He laughed, thinking I was joking. Okay. I owe you $2,000, and I'll pay you back next week when my client pays. Satisfied? I smiled weakly and nodded. Yes, satisfied. After half an hour, we got up. He hugged me, holding me tight, whispering, Thanks for believing in me again. I didn't respond. My hands trembled, but my heart was calm, because I knew I had him. Outside, on the street, I saw Vanessa standing in the crowd. In civilian clothes, inconspicuous, she gave me a slight nod as our eyes met. I took a deep breath as I walked toward her. And? She asked. I held up my phone. We have everything. We were in Vanessa's kitchen. It was late at night. The city outside had grown quieter, with only an occasional car passing by. On the table between us lay my phone, as if it were a weapon I had just fired. Are you ready? Vanessa asked. I nodded. My hands were clammy. My heart was beating too fast, but I wanted to hear it. I had to hear it. She pressed play, and there he was. Chris's voice, familiar and yet so foreign that it made me cold. I owe you $2,000, and I'll pay you back next week when my client pays. Satisfied? It was clear, distinct, and undeniable. I gave a bitter laugh, a sound that hurt me. He really said it, word for word. Vanessa nodded, stopping the recording. That's the nail in his coffin. That, along with your list and the transfers, he won't be able to get out of this. I breathed heavily, pressing my hands against my face. Tears were threatening, but they were different tears than before. No more helplessness, no more shame. It was relief mixed with anger. You know what hurts the most? My voice trembled. Not even the money, but the fact that I really believed he saw me, that I was something special to him. Vanessa placed her hand on mine. You are, just not to him, but to the people who deserve you. He used you, but he didn't break you. I looked at her, and for the first time, I felt that she was right. I was still here, and I was no longer his prey. We listened to the recording one more time. I let every word sink in, and then I wrote in my notebook, in thick letters, Say it again, Chris, this time for the police. Vanessa gave a crooked smile. And that's exactly what's going to happen. 2 days after our meeting, Chris texted me again. Hey Maya, have you found out anything about the money yet? I stared at the message, my fingers trembling over the keyboard. Vanessa had advised me to play along. Keep him on the hook, she had said, so he digs himself deeper. So I wrote back, I might be able to help, but not right away. I need to see how much I have in liquid assets. Less than 5 minutes later, my phone rang. His voice was soft again, almost charming, as if nothing had happened between us. Maya, you're an angel. If you help me out of this bind, I swear we'll start over. Just the two of us, no stress. I want this with you. I held the phone away from my ear a little, as if it were burning. Chris, I don't know. $2,000 is a lot. I want to be sure you'll really pay it back this time. Of course! He laughed, that old, ingratiating laugh. I'll even give it to you in writing. I'll even prepare a bank transfer for you in advance. Please, Maya, you're the only one who still trusts me. The only one, I repeated softly, a pang in my chest. But I caught myself, clenching my teeth. Okay, I could transfer the money to a card for you. Give me your details. Vanessa had prepared everything, a blank prepaid card that couldn't be loaded. She grinned when I forwarded Chris's details to her. This is the trap. He'll try it immediately, and when he realizes it doesn't work, he'll put on the pressure again. That's exactly what we need. And that's exactly what happened. That same night, I got a message from him. Maya, the money isn't there. Did you even send it? I replied calmly. Yes, I transferred it. Maybe it just takes a little while to arrive. A few minutes later, he called. His voice was no longer soft. It was cold, cutting. Are you playing games with me, Maya? Tell me the truth. I felt my heart race, but I stayed calm. No, I did it. Check again tomorrow. If you're messing with me... He stopped, breathing heavily. I swear, you'll regret it. Then he hung up. I sat on my sofa with a pounding heart, phone in hand, and stared into the darkness. His threat echoed, like a cold hand on my neck. But this time, I wasn't the victim. This time, I was prepared. I wrote in my notebook, his smile was warm, his threat is cold. Now the police will see him for who he really is. It was a gray Monday morning, the sky hanging low over the city, when Vanessa and I walked up the steps to the precinct. My heart was pounding so loudly, I thought everyone nearby must hear it. In my bag was the flash drive with all the recordings, screenshots, and bank statements. I held my notebook, filled to the last page, to me like a shield. Ready? Vanessa asked, her voice firm but gentle. I nodded, even though I felt dizzy. As ready as I can be. The lobby smelled of cold coffee and paper. An officer at the front desk looked up as we entered. Can I help you? Vanessa nodded curtly. Yes, we'd like to file a report. Multiple counts of fraud. His gaze shifted to me and lingered. I felt my face grow hot, but I lifted my chin. It's about Chris J.B., I said, my voice surprisingly clear. We were led into a small room, a table, chairs, a desk lamp. Nothing special, but to me it felt like a courtroom. A detective came in, introduced himself, and I began to tell my story. Everything, from the first message about cinnamon rolls to the last threat. I presented the transfers, the screenshots, and played the voice messages. My hands trembled at times, but I heard myself speak with a calmness I didn't know I had. You've documented this very well, the detective said as he took notes. We rarely see this. Usually, victims lack the courage or the clarity. I swallowed. He almost took both from me, but not entirely. Vanessa looked at me proudly, saying nothing. When we stood outside again 2 hours later, I felt as if I had just fought a battle. My legs were heavy, my mind was empty, but something new was inside me too. Relief. And now? I asked. Vanessa put her arm around my shoulder. Now it's no longer your burden alone. Now the machine is in motion. He'll be interrogated, and with what you have, he won't get out of this. I nodded, taking a deep breath. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. That evening, I wrote a sentence in my notebook. Today, I reclaimed my voice. And as I read that, I knew. The fight had just begun, but this time I was on the right side. It was 2 days after I filed the report. I was at the clinic holding a scared cat when my phone vibrated. Chris's name lit up on the screen. A punch to my stomach. My heart skipped a beat. I carefully handed the cat to Chloe, who immediately sensed something was wrong. Answer it, she whispered, but be careful. With clammy hands, I answered. Hello? His voice was soft, almost charming, just like in the beginning. Maya, I heard the police want to talk to me. Do you know anything about that? I was silent. My pulse raced. Why are you asking me? Because... He laughed briefly, without joy. Because you're the only one who could understand me. The one who knows I'm not a bad person. You believe in me, don't you? My stomach clenched. Chris. His tone immediately changed, becoming harder, colder. Or not. Did you talk to them? Tell me, Maya. I felt the air grow thin. Chris, I can't do this anymore. If that was you, he continued, his voice now a knife, then you've ruined everything. But believe me, you'll regret it. I always get what's coming to me. Tears ran down my cheeks as I tried to stay calm. You know what's coming to you, Chris? My voice trembled, but it didn't break. The truth, and it's catching up to you now. Silence. Then he hung up. I sat there, phone in hand, my fingers icy cold. Chloe stood next to me, placing a hand on my shoulder. That was a threat, she said softly. Yes, I whispered. But this time, he gave himself away. That evening I told Vanessa about the call. She listened attentively, taking notes. This is good, she said finally. It sounds harsh, but threats like that help us. They show his true face. I nodded, wiping my eyes. You know what the worst part is? I can still sometimes hear his voice from the beginning, when he ordered cinnamon rolls without asking, and at the same time, I see the man who's threatening me. 2 faces, and I believe the wrong one. Vanessa took me in her arms. Then look at it this way. One face was a mask, the other is the truth, and now you've unmasked them both. The day of the hearing came faster than I expected. Weeks of interrogations, stacks of files, and conversations with the police. All of that was over now. I stood in front of the courthouse, my heart pounding like a jackhammer. Next to me was Vanessa, in civilian clothes, but with the same presence she had on duty. Ready? She asked. I nodded, even though I felt dizzy. As ready as anyone can be for something like this. The courtroom was large but stuffy. Wooden benches, gray walls, the hum of fluorescent lights. I sat down in the second row, my notebook on my lap like a shield. Then they let him in. Chris. In handcuffs, escorted by 2 officers. No more leather jacket smile, no more charm. He looked pale, tired, his hair disheveled. But as his gaze swept across the room and found me, something flashed, soft at first, then immediately cold. A shiver ran down my spine, but I held his gaze. I no longer wanted to look away. Not today. The hearing began. The prosecutor read the indictment. Multiple counts of fraud, illegal acquisition of services, and threats. My voice echoed in the room later when they played my audio recording. I owe you $2,000 and I'll pay you back next week. I heard my own heart beat faster as I listened to Chris's voice again. Evidence was presented. My list, the transfers, the screenshots, and then the witness testimonies. I recounted everything, from our first message about cinnamon rolls to the last threat on the phone. My hands trembled at times, but I spoke with a composure I didn't know I had. Why did you trust him so often? The judge asked finally. I swallowed, looking down. Because I was in love. Because I hoped that this time someone was being honest. I wanted to believe, and he exploited that. The courtroom was silent. Chris defended himself as expected. He talked about misunderstandings, about bad luck, about misperceptions. But the more he spoke, the more entangled he became, and every time he tried to sound charming, it came across as false, artificial, and empty. When he addressed me directly, "Maya, you know we had something special." I heard Vanessa snort quietly behind me. I lifted my chin. "We had nothing, Chris, just your lies." His face twisted, and for a moment the man behind the mask disappeared. Only anger remained. After hours it was over. The judge announced the verdict, 2.5 years in prison, with an order to repay the sums, as far as his assets would allow. No smiles, no applause, just a silence that hung in the air like a blow. I exhaled heavily. My body felt as if I had just run a marathon. Vanessa briefly placed her hand on my shoulder. "It's over, Maya. He's out of your life." I nodded, tears running down my cheeks, tears of relief. And somewhere, deep down, I felt I had survived. As the courtroom doors closed behind me, it felt as if someone had taken a shackle off my shoulders. I stood outside on the steps, breathing in the cold air, and felt that my body wasn't trembling anymore for the first time in weeks. Chris was gone. No longer in my vicinity. No longer in my future. Vanessa came up to me, wordlessly putting a paper cup of coffee in my hand. "Here, it's got sugar in it. You look like you need something sweet." I gave a short, hoarse laugh, wiping my eyes with my sleeve. "Thanks. I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have." She looked at me seriously. "It would have taken longer, and you might have fallen harder, but you would have done it, because you're stronger than you think." The days that followed were quieter. I went to work as usual, groomed Luna, cantered across the paddock, letting the wind hit my face. And every time my gut tried to look for fear, I noticed there was nothing there anymore. No threats, no messages, no fake smiles, just silence. In the evenings, I often sat at my kitchen table with my notebook. I would flip back to the pages full of numbers, sums, and chat snippets, and I was amazed at how far I had come. These pages were no longer a sign of my weakness, but of my courage. I wrote a new heading on the last empty page. Not a victim, a survivor. Vanessa insisted we had to celebrate. So one evening, we sat in her kitchen, a pizza on the table, a bottle of wine next to it. She raised her glass. "To you, Maya, to your strength, and to the fact that you'll never again close your eyes when your gut is screaming." I clinked glasses, smiling. "And to you, for showing me that friendship sometimes saves more than love." "Always," she said, and drank. A few weeks later, the first letter came from the prosecutor's office. Confirmation that some of my money would be repaid from his seized assets. It wasn't everything, but it was enough to feel that justice wasn't just a word. I held up the letter, my fingers tracing the paper. "He almost broke me," I whispered. "But now he's paying in every sense of the word." At the stable, on a mild evening, I cantered with Luna across the field. The sky turned pink. The wind whipped through my hair. For the first time in months, I laughed out loud, freely, without bitterness, and Luna, my honest companion, carried me as if she had always known I would get through this. Months passed. Summer had come, the city smelled of linden blossoms, and I felt that my life finally belonged to me again. Not to Chris, not to his con, not to my old fears, just to me. I sat on the balcony on a warm evening, a book open, one I hadn't been able to read for months. Before, every page had felt too heavy in my hands because my thoughts were always on him. Now I turned the pages, and the words fell back into place. I was really reading. I was living again. At the clinic, I had changed. I listened more closely to people, not just their words, but what was in between them. A woman told me she had just a little money trouble, and I saw the pain behind her smile. A man brought in his dog, nervous, and I recognized the helplessness in his movements. I now knew what it was like to show more than you want to, and to admit less than you should. Vanessa and I met regularly. We went riding, drank wine, and sometimes just sat in silence next to each other. One evening she said, "You're not the same anymore, Maya." I laughed softly. "Is that good or bad?" "Good," she said immediately. "You're clearer, firmer, and you'll never again settle for less than you deserve." Her words hit me deeply. She was right. Something had also grown within myself. I had stopped being ashamed of the fact that I had fallen for Chris. Yes, I had wanted to fall in love. Yes, I had believed him. But that didn't make me foolish. It made me human. and what I had learned from it made me strong. I wrote it in my notebook on the last page, this time without anger or trembling. I was deceived, I was hurt, but I am not broken. I have grown. And as the sun slowly disappeared behind the rooftops, I stroked Luna's forehead as she stood next to me at the fence and whispered, "We'll get through it, no matter what." This time, it was no longer hope. It was certainty. It took me a long time to understand that strength doesn't mean never falling. Strength means getting up, even when you think you can't anymore. I believed, I loved, I hoped, and I was deceived. But that doesn't take away my ability to believe. It doesn't take away my longing for closeness, and it doesn't take away the love I have to give. It only shows me that I'm allowed to set boundaries, that my gut feeling is my best friend when my heart is beating too loudly. I've learned people show you who they are, sooner or later, and when they do, believe them, no matter how much you wish they were different. I was a victim, but I'm not staying one. I was deceived, but I am not broken. I'm moving forward with clearer eyes and a stronger heart. And if one day I love someone again, I won't love them blindly. I'll love with open eyes, with trust that has been earned. Because I know now, true love takes nothing from you. It gives you everything.